Vamos a comenzar esta segunda parte con una conversación que ya les había adelantado, tiene que ver con la historia de Endeavor, pero también con esta mirada de futuro que tratábamos de proyectar en este video. Y para ello quiero invitar a este escenario a Linda Rottenberg y a Trinidad Carmona, que nos va a acompañar a continuación. Bienvenidas.
Hola a todos, buenas noches. Me toca un gran desafío hoy día entrevistar a nuestra invitada de honor, Linda Rottenberg, con algunas preguntas para que nos cuente de su historia, de cómo nació esta tremenda organización que es Endeavor y también qué es lo que espera a los próximos 25 años. Va a ser en inglés, eso sí, así que me disculpa la pronunciación. Do you want to say something to her?
No, muy buena onda, ¿no? Increíble estar aquí con todos ustedes. Vamos a hablar en inglés, pero mi corazón está en Chile ahora.
So I want to start from the beginning. So nowadays we hear all these terms that are so familiar to us, you know, startups, scale-ups, entrepreneurship, unicorns, etc. But if we move back 25 years ago, as those images that we saw in the video, those vintage Mapocho River filled with water, you know, how was it back then, and how did you most especially come up with this idea, this dream of building Endeavor? And if you can tell us a little bit about those early days, how you chose your business partner, and sort of like what dreams and challenges did you have back then?
Well, first, my husband, Bruce Filer, is here with me. He's not missed any Endeavor Gala, so this is, he's keeping up his track record. But I think I met some people in this room before I met him, which happens in almost no other room I'm in. So this is amazing being here. It's such an incredible moment to see the past and the future. So I had been studying, didn't want to be a lawyer, came to Latin America. This is the mid-90s when Yahoo and Netscape are IPOing on the New York Stock Exchange, and Steve Jobs is back at Apple. And yet, I was in a taxi, actually in Buenos Aires, so we're going to talk about Chile being the first country of Endeavor, but yes, Chile's the first country of Endeavor, but I was in Argentina in the taxi, and realizing that my driver had an engineering degree. And I thought, what are you doing driving a taxi? And neither of us could figure out the word in Spanish for an entrepreneur. The word emprendedor was not used. In fact, that's one of the things that Endeavor did, was popularize this word that had been used for Christopher Columbus, right? And pioneering, but not in terms of innovation and starting and scaling businesses. So I thought, oh my God, there's no word. Of course there's no entrepreneurship here. You can't even tell your parents your crazy idea. And so I had this idea, why don't we start something to support high growth, innovative, high impact, founders with these companies that will create jobs and change the future of these economies. And everyone thought it was crazy. And Peter Kellner, my co-founder, and I would go to Chile and go to Argentina, and everyone thought I was chica loca. And it took a while, but I want to say thank you. Jose Luis Del Rio is here. Jose Luis, Salvador C. were the first to believe in me. Kathleen Barkley, who is now our chair of the board, was the first to organize all the meetings with all the Chileans. And I also want to thank Christoph Schiess, who's been on an incredible board chair, who passed the baton recently to Kathleen, but Christoph, I want to thank you. But anyway, back then, so I was chica loca, and no one believed that there were these entrepreneurs. Today, and we'll get into the story, but today Endeavor operates in 40 countries around the world. We have 2,500 high-growth entrepreneurs. They've created more than 4 million jobs, $50 billion in revenues. We have 60 companies that are valued as unicorns, over $1 billion. But what's exciting to me is two things. One is we talk about a multiplier effect. And so many of the entrepreneurs in this room are now the mentors and the role models and the investors in the next generation. And to end, back to the taxi story, today we had a meeting of the investors in Endeavor Catalyst, and my colleague Igor from Brazil, said, I was in a taxi in Santiago, and the guy asked me where I was going and what I did. And I told him I work for this organization. It's called Endeavor, and it supports high growth, high impact, scale up companies and entrepreneurs. No, wait a minute, I know Endeavor. And he said, thank you for investing in and supporting in the entrepreneurs in this country. Please, we need more investment. The taxi driver in Santiago. So that is the 25-year journey. Yeah. Verdad, la historia es verdad. Yeah.
That's such an amazing measure of success, as you say, putting into the word of the public entrepreneurship, and then having the taxi driver mention that. That's the impact that this network has.
So, yeah, alto impacto, no? In los taxis, yeah.
So you briefly mentioned Argentina, right? You know that
Briefly,
yeah. Please. You know that we Chileans have a very, very long-standing rival in Argentina, and that translates to everything from manjar to soccer, most especially football, right? So we want to know once and for all, was it Chile or was it Argentina?
It's Chile. Where are we? It was Chile.
Okay. We have that on video now, okay? So tell us about why Chile. So you started, and this was the first Endeavor international brand was Chile. Now we have that set straight. Why? What do you see in our country that had such an amazing potential to build that first international office?
Well, this gets to what the amazing things about Chile, and then the things that I see changing, right? Because the incredible things about Chile were that it had a stable economy, that it had a stable political system, that it had so much talent, so much, the universities are incredible, that it had in science and technology, we heard, right, innovation. And these were the best things, and yet these were the things that actually prevented things from taking off. Because sometimes, someone said to me today, oh, Chile's a little chaotic now. I'm like, good, we need chaos. It's the friend of the entrepreneur. And I think things were almost too stable. Too status quo looked good. And so I think sometimes for entrepreneurship, we needed to push a little, right? And I think now what's so exciting to me is I see all of the benefits of Chile, but yet people they want to think big now. They want to take more risk. And so that's the change.
That's excellent. That shows how important our country is. Regardless that we're small in terms of population and far away in the world, we have such strong potential that remains.
Well, and people like you, I mean, what you've done and Rolando and your dad with Drillco, that you operate in how many countries?
35.
35. You operate in 35 countries, Drillco. Earlier today, just to put this story and the change I'm seeing and the excitement I feel being here, Jorge Nasser of Alto, I told him I was going to tell this story earlier today, said, he said, I'm part of the first generation of entrepreneurs here. And for me, thinking big was Concepcion. And he said, now, seeing this next generation, it's Brazil, it's Mexico, it's the US, you're in England and South Africa. Like, it's so exciting to see Chile, which is at the end of the world, right? Now leading the world. I mean, Kathleen talked about, and JMA talked about Scale Up Nation. I can't wait for the rest of the world to say Chile is Scale Up Nation. And
So touching base on that specific aspect, there's a lot of people here tonight who are not Endeavor entrepreneurs or mentors, but associates or people who are familiar and close to the network. Can you explain a little bit what's your vision of what is a scale-up nation, and then what do you think are the key insights that Chile needs to work on to turn into that scale-up nation?
Well, let me end with this, and I know you have more people you're going to hear from who are the entrepreneurs, who are always endeavors of, by, for entrepreneurs. So we'll close soon so you can hear from them. Because that's where the stories are, like stories like Drillco, and I'm sitting with entrepreneurs from Book and Betterfly and Phage Labs. This is where the country is going. I read that report that the Endeavor Insight team did. In 2020, 42% of jobs in Chile came from scale-ups. Scale-ups represent just 1% of the companies created, right? So 1% of the companies are creating 42% of the jobs. We need to celebrate, you know, the founders that are thinking the biggest. And
So what actually is a scale-up? Can we define a scale-up in terms of scope, footprint, etc.?
Yeah, look, Endeavor's looking for the companies that get from startup to $1 million to $10 million in revenue, or shooting for it to be $100 million in revenue, to create thousands of jobs. But more than that, to multiply their impact, to be those angel investors and mentors and role models, to pay it forward, to multiply their impact for that next generation. So the scale-ups, it's not just about the jobs they're creating. The other thing I'll say that is unique to Chile is the level of innovation here is incredible. And when you look at some of the biotechnology, right, with Phage Labs, with Cura, with bioelements, with Spora, yeah. Woo! It's amazing, and here's what's changing. 10 years ago, those would have been done in the laboratory or in the academy and stuck, and no one knew how to commercialize. And here they're saying, I'm going to Boston, I'm selling to Burberry, I'm going to New York. I mean, it's amazing. I'm going to Brazil. What I am excited about, Chile has always had the talent. Chile has always had the innovation capacity. It needed to think bigger, and now what you see these founders thinking big, I think the combination of really innovative proprietary technology, like you've had at Drillco, right? And this ability to think big, the ability to create jobs, the ability to move from one phase to the next, which is hard. Sometimes the founder has to change, right? It's all of those that make the scale up. And to be scale up nation, we need to celebrate the few companies that are able to make that leap.
There's so many more questions that I want to ask you, but since we've got a long list of things happening tonight, especially celebrating our entrepreneurs, I want to ask you one final question. And I'm pretty sure you've given this a lot of thought over the last 25 years. So what comes next? What about the next 25 years? What are your hopes and your expectations? If anything could happen, what do you want to wish to happen?
Well, two things are important to me. One is, we spent so much time in the first 25 years proving that innovative thinkers with big ideas, with big dreams, really can create these big companies and pay it forward back in their ecosystems. But now we want to do something unique, which is Endeavor started as a nonprofit. And now we have Endeavor Catalyst, which are a fund, a for-profit fund. Many of the people here are the investors in Endeavor Catalyst. It's a rules-based fund that invests only in Endeavor entrepreneurs. And the proceeds, 50% of the proceeds go to the investors, and 50% go to make Endeavor a self-sustaining organization. So my dream is that Endeavor, the nonprofit, will be self-sustaining based on the success of the very entrepreneurs we support. There's almost no nonprofit in the world that can say that. So I want to thank all of you, because really, that's my dream. My dream is to change the way people think about philanthropy and for-profits and nonprofits, and all of you and so many of you who are investors and investees of Endeavor Catalyst are making this dream come true. And then the last thing before we leave is I am very excited to see more female CEOs of the scale-ups. So gracias, Trini, for being un ejemplo.
Thank you. I also want to thank you for this amazing, if you look at this tonight, it's not just about entrepreneurs, even though they're the heart of Endeavor. There's so many more people. There's the government, there's the media, there's the investors, there's the mentors. It's such a beautiful, beautiful network, and I think I'm speaking on behalf of every single entrepreneur in the world. There's access to so much stuff, so connections, inspiration, thinking big that happens every single day. We were, I think it was 2 months ago, we went to Patagonia in this boat with many of the people who are here, and you put all those people together, we can move the world. The impact is so big, the power is so big, but there's good heart in people. It's not just about making it bigger to the one next to you, but actually sharing that knowledge, sharing your connections, sharing your failures. There's so much knowledge in this network, and I think, to me at least, as an entrepreneur, that's the biggest value of this network. So I want to thank you on behalf of everyone here for being here, for traveling, for this night, which is so important for us. And just have a good time and enjoy yourself tonight, because you're our guest of honor.
Gracias a todos, and here's to Scale Up Nation.